The Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury are proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character.
This episode is also sponsored by Science Division, the makers of the world's first interactive Tribble. Stay tuned for a special discount code to bring a Tribble into your home today. Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun.
The divine treasury is made of pure latinum.
From the storage bins that look very eerily similar to those of Deep Space Station K7, the lookalikes at Podfleet Command, this is the Divine Treasury Podcast. I, as always, am your host, Mike Bovia, and I am joined by my co-host, Jamie Rogers, who is looking a little bit like Cyrano Jones tonight. How are you, Jamie?
Why am I looking like Cyrano Jones?
I don't know. I was trying to keep in sync with our episode theme.
Oh boy. You could have said I look more like a Gorn. I mean, that's true. That could have been the same episode theme.
That's true. And as you guys listen to our episode, you'll see why we're talking about Cyrano Jones and the Gorn. But first, as we always do on the Divine Treasury, we'll get into some of the new merchandise that's on the market. So on our last episode, we talked about the unnamed Picard book that was coming out in August. Well, since then, that book has been named. The name of the book is Rogue Elements, and it's being written by John Jackson Miller. And the book is going to focus on Cristobal Rios. Captain Rios, as we all know, and we're going to see what transpired in his life after he left Starfleet, leading up to when he encountered Admiral Picard in the beginning of Star Trek Picard. If you are like Sheldon Cooper and you are a train enthusiast as well as a Star Trek enthusiast, you've heard of the Lionel series that came out last year, which was a pretty pricey train set. But this year, there are going to be more on the horizon. So third quarter of 2021, we're going to see a number of add-ons to that set. Things such as a hopper car with dilithium crystals in it, a speeder car that's made to look like a shuttle from the Enterprise D. There's even a holodeck car that actually looks pretty cool. But you need to be willing to drop some serious quatloos for this. So as of now, when I look at Amazon, the original Lionel train set that came out last year is at $349.99. Now that is actually $100 price drop from where it was last year. So you're saving some money there. And it looks like each of these series of cars that's coming out is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 to $75. So, hey, you know what? If you're into trains, and this is the kind of thing that you want as a Star Trek fan, so watch out for the third quarter of 2021 when those Lionel train cars are supposed to be coming out.
You know, I'm always fascinated when I see people with train sets. Like, you know, there's this place I used to go to with my family. We used to go to Maine, and we'd eat in this restaurant called Governor's, and they used to have a train running throughout the entire restaurant. I was always fascinated by it. But there is no room in this man cave for a Star Trek train set. So that will not be gracing its presence down here. I can guarantee you of that.
Yeah. That would be one of those things that would really put you in debt because of your completionist nature. Because I mean, the whole thing starts at 350 or 450, and then $75 a pop after that. I mean, that's some serious cash.
Yeah, it's just there's no room for that, especially when I got the Enterprise D bill coming very shortly. So Eagle Moss has some more excellent things on the horizon. We know we've talked about the La Sirena from Star Trek Picard, but we just saw some nice pictures of another announcement from the Star Trek Picard series. That is the modified Romulan bird of prey that was displayed. I believe it was episode 4.
I think you're right.
I think it was episode 4, Stardust City Rag.
Oh, that's episode 5.
Okay.
No, episode 4. Absolute Candor.
Absolute Candor. Yes. So I believe it was episode 5 then when we saw the modified Romulan bird of prey. But that looks really sharp. Looks awesome. Some more ships that have been announced as well. I love the name of this ship because it's one of my favorite characters from Enterprise, the USS Shran. So this is coming from that Star Trek Online collection. And like I said, like the name, I'm not really too in love with the design. Doesn't really do too much for me, but I definitely love the name of the ship.
So this does actually come from Discovery in name only.
Yes. So it was, so if I remember this correctly, because it was named in the show, but what I think is when they did that Discovery add-on on Star Trek Online, they kind of fleshed out some of these characters, some of these ships, and this was one of the ships that was fleshed out when they did that expansion pack on Star Trek Online. So that's a pretty cool announcement. There's also a Klingon Charg class battleship that looks pretty cool. Almost looks like a TIE fighter from Star Wars a little bit. So a lot of cool designs coming out for that collection, the Star Trek Universe collection. So some things to look forward to if you are an Eagle Moss person.
Now, we know many of you who listen to this podcast and this network are Fansets people. And as you've heard in our conversation with Lou from Fansets, we're Fansets people too. So we wanted to highlight the fact that we are giving away a pair of magnetic deltas from Star Trek Picard, courtesy of Fansets. All you got to do is post a picture of something from your collection on social media using the hashtag connecting through collecting. That way we're able to see that you've put it out there, and we will be drawing this at the beginning of March. We'll be doing the drawing, and it will be announced on our second March episode of the month. So again, Star Trek Picard Magnetic Delta, great for cosplay because you won't have those pin backs sticking into your chest. Send us pictures of your collectibles and use that hashtag connecting through collecting to enter into a drawing for a pair of magnetic deltas courtesy of Fansets. So Jamie, once we get to the first part of the Divine Treasury, it's our custom, as the good Ferengi that we are, to discuss what we have added to our collection since the last episode. So what have you added over the last couple weeks?
So I'm kind of on that same theme since our last episode that we had of, I've been kind of going through my kick of the Star Trek collectible customizable card game cards. So I've been kind of putting together some of those sets. The most recent sets that I've acquired are the Deep Space Nine one and the Blaze of Glory set. So that Deep Space Nine one's actually is a fairly sought after one. It's I don't want to say it's one of the rarer ones, but it's highlighted by a white border preview card for the USS Defiant. Also has the Deep Space Nine slash Terrak Nor card. So it was the first card that was dual sided. So kind of a couple interesting features to that set. And then the Blaze of Glory set, that's kind of a little bit more of a common set, not as pricey as some of the other ones. So those are two that I've added, but I've got a lot more on the way. So our next episode will be talking about some of the other ones that I've acquired, but I'm pretty close to completing all of the first edition CCG cards at this time. I did get an order from Fansets as well. I was able to get my very own Horgon. I also got my Picard episodes 6 and 7 pins. And then I got some Star Trek Picard pins, since those have been ones that have been coming out recently. The Raffi, the Picard on the La Serena. And then I also did get the Choose to Live pin, the Elnor Choose to Live pin. So I did get that as well. That's pretty much all I have. Obviously, I'm looking really forward to the month of March because we're going to be getting those first couple issues of my Enterprise D build. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'm really, really excited about Picard Season 1, which I know you are as well. So we have not gotten to that point yet, but in these next couple episodes, we're going to really be highlighting some of our acquisitions from that set.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that. So like you, I got a bunch of fan set stuff that came in. I picked up. So I've been doing the badge collection that they've been going through. So like we just talked about, the Star Trek Picard badge, the Delta badge, that is. So I've been consistent. Each time they come out with one, I've picked one up. But I was going through the catalog and I realized they had released some badges prior that I hadn't picked up. They had the Mirror Universe badge from Discovery. I had gotten Emily one at one time, but I realized, hey, you know what? That's a badge that they've put together. I should probably pick that up. So as I was looking through, I saw that one. I saw the IDIC emblem that they have as a badge there, so I picked that up. I also picked up, even though it's not canon because it's in comic books, I picked up the two Mirror Universe badges from the TNG comic series from the Mirror Universe because they were pretty cool looking. So I added that to my collection of badges for my cork board. I like you, I also picked up a Horgon and my episode pins because I couldn't hold back. I got to have those episode pins as they come in. I've also been working on trying to pick up the subsets that go along with the season 2 Discovery Rittenhouse set. I think for some of the sets that I really like, I have kind of made the decision that I'm not going to necessarily do the full-on master set that people do, where they get the base set, every one of the subsets, and all the autograph cards. That's just not in my nature. I would drive myself nuts with that. And I've seen you drive yourself nuts with it, and I don't want to live that life. So, but I do feel like it's far easier to go out on eBay, the secondary market, and just be able to pick up the subsets at a reasonable amount, and the whole thing's there. I don't have to be looking for the rare card that nobody seems to have. I can just say, all right, great, 1 through 27. Yes, send me the set. So for season 2 Discovery, I just got the storyboard sketches set that came out. It's pretty neat. And then they also had a subset of the short treks. That was a nice looking set. So I picked the 2 of those up. Another thing I decided I'm going to do, and I was chatting with you about this week, is I have the 25th anniversary set from Impel. I have the 50th anniversary set from Rittenhouse. And I realized that they have a 30th, 35th, 40th, and 45th anniversary set out there. So I'm slowly working on putting that together. So
it doesn't seem like they saturated the market at all with those, huh?
No. Hey, it's a different logo every 5 years. I'm waiting for this
I
year when
know.
we have the 55th anniversary.
You don't
Uh,
think they'll release a 55th, do you?
no, not a chance. Um, but the 30th was actually pretty cool, and I think there's actually some other cards out there too. But the first set I was able to find was a set of 20 cards that were all metal cards, and they came in a metal tin. That was really cool, so I picked that up. It's all original series, but it highlights all of the characters, it highlights the ship, and it highlights some of the more popular episodes. So Space Seed is in there, City on the Edge of Forever. What else is in there? Trouble with Tribbles. All the ones that when people who are even ancillary fans of the series think of shows, they go, those are there right away. Have you seen this episode? Have you seen this episode? Well, all of those are in there.
Yeah, some of those anniversary sets are real sharp looking. I know. I think I pretty much have all the base sets. I didn't, as you know, if it's like pretty much original series or those mix sets, I just pretty much get the base set and that's it. Which are they're always really cheap.
Yeah,
maybe $5-10 or whatever, because people have so many of those lying around, especially the dealers. So
I'm looking at one right now that the high bid is 99 cents. I'm hoping it stays there.
Yeah.
So another thing to continue on that track of the Discovery season 2, we'll call it a mini master set. I picked up the case toppers. They're also a couple of metal cards, and it's the promos from the series. So it's the back-to-back portraits of Burnham and Spock, Pike and Georgiou, and then the backside has Stamets and Culber and Saru and Tilly. But they're nice metal cards, good quality to them.
Oh yeah, no. When you send me those pictures, they are sharp.
Sharp
really looking
are.
cards.
They really are. But the thing I've been waiting on, a couple weeks ago, I put in a really big order on eBay, and unfortunately, the provider that I ordered from has been stuck in the area of Texas where they were in bad shape with the weather. So it's taken a few weeks for me to get it through no fault of his. That's not the point of this, but I did finally get that in actually this afternoon. So I got from season 1 of Discovery. It is a relic card signed by Mary Wiseman. It was actually one of the case incentives cards because it's got the Rittenhouse seal covering to keep the card in the plastic protector. I also picked up from season 1 Discovery a Rekha Sharma autograph card just because her signature is so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best. One of the best.
And season 2 Discovery has these awesome cards. I'm just going to show you one of them here. They're called acetite cards. They are see-through plastic cards with the characters on them, and they're all that way. But it's a really cool background. I wanted them mainly for display stuff for some of my shelves. I try to put, if I've got a card of some of the like action figures that I've got, I put the card down with the figure. So that was the purpose of those. And then the 3 big ones that came out of this order, I got from the movie series, the of Inflections, Patrick Stewart signed card from Generations in the Generations uniform. From season 1 of Discovery, I got a Michelle Yeoh signed card as Captain Georgiou. So I'm now proud to say that I have an autograph of someone that Jamie does not have. Michelle Yeoh, right there.
Yep. No, that is a true statement.
And then I got a sweet deal on this card. I couldn't believe how little I paid for it. A Majel Barrett signed card as Christine Chapel, and it looks really nice. It'll go along well with the Women of Trek Chapel pin. I think it's going to look nice side by side.
Yeah, I have some of the TNG characters in that style.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're mostly from like the Quotable series.
That's exactly what this is. Yep.
So that you have the original series Quotable, but I have a lot from that TNG one, and those, just how they made that card just looks so sharp with the white diagonal spot for their autograph, because it gave them so much room to make the autograph, which is, like I said, just those cards are just really nice. They display very nicely.
Yeah, and I think the color contrast on this is very nice too. And I was just looking at the back. Card's 17 years old. I can't believe it. It's beautiful looking.
I mean, how long has Majel's been gone for?
2009, I think.
Yeah, so
because she died just before the premiere of the first of the JJ movies. So that's 12 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, I do have some other stuff that is out and in transit right now, so I'll have more to talk about on the next episode. But
I got a real interesting item coming too that I'm not going to say on this one, but I should have it by the next episode. But it's kind of an interesting. It is from the card sets, but it was something that I wasn't going to get before, but I thought it'd be an interesting little piece to put in one of my display cases. So stay tuned for that one.
Cool. We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury.
By definition, Fansets is a small business, but the service and products they offer are big, with offerings for all different types of fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, and Harry Potter.
But since the sweet spot of our show here at the Divine Treasury is Star Trek, we will talk about their over 300 licensed Star Trek pins, from badges to microcrew to anniversary sets to episode pins. When you go to the Fansets website, you are in a collector's dream. Now, they release new pins on the 1st and 15th of every month. And now available for the month of March are the Women of Trek releases Deanna Troi and Kira Nerys from the first series. These are the individual selections now that you're able to purchase as part of that Women of Trek collection. As well as that, also available is Episode 8, Broken Pieces, the episode pin from Star Trek Picard.
And as a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code DIVINE. That's DIVINE at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders of $30 or more.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. And on each episode of the Divine Treasury, we're looking for a collector of all things Star Trek to see what's gotten them into the hobby and what they've got. So on this episode, we're going to have a conversation with the creators of the world's first interactive Tribble. They are also New England natives like Jamie and I. but they also like to collect as well. So we welcome Jay and Kalia Zawaki. How are you guys today?
Hey, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Awesome.
You guys are too?
Yeah. So not to get too far off topic, but I got slammed with snow here last night. Did you guys get a lot? Okay.
We got a lot of really wet during the day, mostly. Started in the morning, and it started as rain, and then it was very heavy. We didn't get a lot of inches per se, but it was very thick and unpleasant to remove.
It was a nightmare for me because I'm a gardener, and so I had all of my new plants that I planted at the end of the fall that aren't like rooted in quite yet. So I was out there all day shaking this wet snow off the plants because I was like, please don't split my plants open. So luckily, because we're working from home, I could run out into hours and try to kick the snow off.
It's almost like you collect plants.
I do collect plants.
Oh, well, we can talk about that at another time. So yeah, I ended up getting 4 to 5 inches at my house. Jamie lives 10 minutes from me. Did you get a decent amount too? Okay,
Yeah, we got a decent amount. Now, what part of New England do you guys live in?
We're in Central Mass.
Oh, Central Mass. Okay, so not too far from us.
No. So what we like to do is we start you guys off with, and this is why I said we'll get to this in a minute. We like to see if there's anything outside of Star Trek that you collect. So we'll begin the questioning there.
I think most of the Trek collecting is probably more on your side anyway. I have a fair amount of different type of collections. First of all, I play a lot of video games. So just inherently, there's some, even if it's unintentional, collecting on that front. And I've been playing a lot of Destiny, and there's plenty of merchandise that goes along with that. Mm-hmm. So I have that collecting under my belt. And then I also, since very little, I've always really loved like radio plays and stories, audiobooks, those kind of things. And there's a company based out of New York who has been doing some really cool stories for the past 60 years or so. And so I'm proud to say I'm pretty much one of their biggest fans. And so I have almost all of their stories and some of their old print records that they actually sent out to radio stations back when radio stations would do serialized stories and that kind of stuff. So
that is so cool.
Poster. They only printed a few posters to send to radio stations.
Poster. They only had made 10 of them back in 75 or something like that. And they had one left over that they never sent out, and it went up for auction. I got it. It's definitely one of my prized possessions now.
Make sure
to get it framed. And I was like, you cannot lose it. You cannot hurt it. You have to give it back to us looking beautiful because my husband will lose it. And they're like, it'll be fine. We'll take good care of it.
So please make sure you include that in your video or your picture of your collection, because I would love to see that. Love to see that.
I have just this kind of weird set of things going on. My favorite animal is a tiger. So there are tigers all over the house. And it's not something that I necessarily would say I am a collector of, but if you walked into the house, you would assume that were the case because they're everywhere. I also have quite a few Godzillas. I used to watch the old Godzilla movies with my dad got me into Star Trek. Dad also, we watched a lot of science fiction and monster movies and stuff like that. So I have ended up with a lot of Godzilla stuff, including a photograph of the first actor to play Godzilla taking a smoke break on the beach next to the Godzilla costume signed by that actor.
That is cool.
It was so random. We had a plumber over because we were doing some remodeling in the bathroom, and he saw a poster in the basement when he went to shut the water off of Godzilla. And so he went to my husband and said, "Oh, you're a Godzilla fan?" And Jay said, "No, that would be my wife." And he goes, "I'll be right back." And he left and came back with this autographed picture. And he was like, "Do you want this?" I was like, yes, I want that. And so he just gave it to me.
That is awesome. You know, it's funny. It's funny you made the comment about how you like tigers and you don't necessarily collect them, but if you walked into the house, people might think that. I feel the same way with my wife. She gets all kinds of shoes and purses, and I don't think she necessarily sets out to collect them, but boy, it sure seems that way.
It can be easy. Something that you like just kind of turns into a collection process without that necessarily being the primary focus at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously we are on a Star Trek podcast. So our next question that we're going to ask you guys is, what are the things that are Star Trek related in your collections?
I have an unofficial Gorn collection. I mentioned that my dad got me started into Star Trek. He started us off with The Trouble with Tribbles, but we also, like, as kids, we watched what we called the monster treks. So like, my sister and I loved the Horta, the Gorn, the Vampire Cloud and Obsession. Like, we would watch those episodes over and over. And so I have always loved the Gorn. And I think I gave one to my dad for Christmas one year, and then he gave one to me. And then the next year I knitted him one. And so then I was like, all right, next year's your year. And so we have just unofficially developed this tradition of just sending each other Gorn junk whenever we come across it. And I actually put them all together one day. And it's a very sizable Gorn collection.
I see you got to add Mugatu to that.
I do have a couple of Mugatus as well.
There's a few.
Yeah.
So Kaylee, have you gotten a chance to meet Bobby Clark at all at any of the conventions?
Yes, when we were at Star Trek Las Vegas with our tribbles, he came up and, introduced himself. Well, actually, he didn't introduce himself. He just came up, but he was wearing a Gorn t-shirt that had the Gorn buried in a pile of sand, and it said going Gorn or whatever. And he just started talking to us about this box of tribbles that he had kept in the attic. And he was like, and then the mice got into them and now they're gone. And I was like, oh my God, you had a whole box of tribbles and you let the mice get into them. And it was so upsetting, but he's a very cool guy.
Yeah, no, he was great. I mean, I've met him a couple times. He's come to Providence. I've met him in Vegas, and he actually signed, obviously I got a signed picture of him, but he signed Gorn bucks and cards for my son, and he's just a really great guy. But growing up too, Arena was my favorite episode as a kid. I had that VHS tape. I don't even think that VHS tape works anymore because I've watched it so many stinking times. Love that episode.
You wore it out.
So now, obviously, Jay, do you have some things in your collection that are Star Trek related?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our Trek stuff is kind of the two of ours, but we do have, I don't know if it's complete, but it's probably pretty close to complete collection of the Mega Bloks Star Trek hits.
I think we have them all.
I think we have them all.
We build them together.
Yeah,
it's a whole event.
We have the whole Enterprise ship. That's definitely the biggest one, but they have lots of little, smaller sets with just a few characters and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because they had a bridge one too, didn't they, from the original series?
Bridge, there's engineering from Day of the Dove, the Guardian from City on the Edge of Forever. Mm-hmm. I think there are 3 or 4 other little sets in addition to the bridge and the Enterprise model.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I did not realize that.
The transporter room.
Yeah, and I think those ones have, if I'm not mistaken, the Mirror Universe ones, character models.
Oh, that's so awesome. See, this is what I like about this, because you're never, ever going to know all of the collectibles that are out there. And so then you're talking to somebody and they tell you, hey, I've got this and I've got this. And you're like, I didn't even know that was available. That's so great.
Absolutely. And obviously, I know you guys touched on it a little bit, but what got you into collecting Star Trek stuff? I know, Kaylee, I know you talked a little bit about your father and how he raised you, but was there anything else, any other episodes or things that really got you into collecting Star Trek things?
You just kind of started getting drugged to conventions with me.
Yeah. I mean, some people may have heard me tell a story before, but I said that I married into the fandom. I didn't watch Trek growing up or anything. I started off when we started going out. But I don't know. It's just I've always enjoyed having knickknacks and things around, and things like models of ships and things like that are always. I like models and some of the detail work that goes into those. Having those kind of things around, I always find really engaging.
Well, you saw the Eaglemoss ships at Mission New York when we went to Star Trek Mission New York, and we saw them and we were like, these are so cool. And then I think it was you that suggested that your mom get me a subscription for the spaceships for Christmas. So now we get a spaceship every month. That's technically like my collection, but Jay gets really excited when they show up. So there are ships, and he's like built shelves for all of them to be displayed upon. So you're into the ship collection too.
Yeah.
I think I've seen those shelves in podcasts we've done together before.
Some of them, they go all the way down that hallway.
This year I had to make a new set of shelves.
I had to install more shelves.
So Kaylee, I got a really serious question here.
Uh-oh.
If Jay didn't take to Star Trek, would that have ended the relationship?
See, I don't know, and I never had to find out. So Jay and I met in school to be lighting designers for theater. And I had only watched TOS growing up. You mentioned Arena on VHS tape. My dad had every episode on VHS tape, and that was how I started watching, is we'd pull the box out and pick the VHS tape and watch it. And so I had only seen TOS, and I knew there was other Trek, but had never, really spent time on that. But then when Jay and I started dating, it got to a point where it was like, I've talked about Star Trek so much, I have to show it to him and see how this goes. And I think one of the things, Jay, you liked it because the storytelling is very, theatrical, that there's a story, it's an important story, there's a moral about it, but also because as they were transitioning at the time into color TV and the newer version of color TV and everything, they were still kind of transitioning from makeup and lighting for black and white. And it was very theatrical, like the makeup that you see and the lighting that you see is very theatrical in that way. And so I think that also kind of piqued your interest long enough to get him invested in Star Trek.
Yeah, original series is one of those series that is very lighting oriented. I know Jamie and I have read the 50-year mission book that came out a few years back, and they talk quite a bit in that book about how the attention that was spent to detail on the lighting side of things for that series. And now you go back a couple of years ago when Star Trek Continues came out, and they were doing all of the fan episodes. And they got a lot of good props for the fact that they duplicated the lighting that they did 60 years ago. So, yeah, that's really cool.
Well, and actually, Jay and I went to go see the licensed set tour in Ticonderoga that James Cawley runs. And they have also done a really great job recreating all of that, the lighting and everything. And we had a great time because we were walking around, and there's a mix of, newer technology that is simulating the old technology, but you can also look up in the rafters and see some stuff that we're just like, old theater lights.
Yeah. Yeah. And see that. So Jamie talks about trying to get me out to Las Vegas. Now I got to get him out to Ticonderoga to see the set tour. But I think he's holding out for when they put together the next gen one out there.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool.
I'm excited to see that.
It's not that far though. You could do it more than once.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do it. But I to his point, I kind of I'm holding out for that.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Well, I've been once, and I would definitely go back and back and back and back because, it's just, there's nothing like the experience of getting to walk on these sets that are identical to what you've looked at on TV growing up. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm a huge nerd, so I had to compare it to like a kid going to Disney World. You know, that's exactly what I thought of when I went in there. I had my wife and I had Emily with me, and then my wife is just looking at me and Emily and like shaking her head. She's like, "Yeah, it's neat, but I mean, you guys are taking this to a whole other level."
Yeah, we took my mom. So when we bought our house, my parents live on the West Coast. So when Jay and I bought the house, they flew over to help us paint and all of that stuff. And as a thank you for their time and energy, we drove my dad to the set tour. And then my mom, of course, had to go along. And she was a very good sport about it because she can't avoid being mixed up in Star Trek because my dad and her 2 daughters are very into Star Trek. So she's a pretty good sport about all of it. And she knows way more about Star Trek than we ever thought she did. And sometimes she'll just surprise us and like throw out a fact or something. And we're like, oh, you've been paying attention.
I think the comparison to Disney World is actually, I haven't thought about it that way, but yeah, you know, to a child, to Disney World, to a Trek fan in Taekwondo, like it really is. It just feels so real. You know, they don't like hide that, like, you know, it's kind of, you know, for filming, that kind of stuff. Not that they do that there, but, you know, like it feels like a set, but it feels.
It's the set.
Yeah. It like,
yes.
It feels like you've been transported back in time and are like,
yeah,
Leonard Nimoy could walk around the corner right there. You know, it's so detailed to, you know, the tiniest little degree. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, even to I'm wondering if you guys got the same tour guide guy that I got, to the point where when you're in the medical lab and he was asking, does anyone know what this thing in the corner is? And he's like, we don't know what it is, but it was on the set plans. So we built it and we put it there, but we can't seem to find anyone who knows what it is. He goes, when you're on the engineering set, you'll see another one. And we don't know what it is, but it was on the plans, so we put it in.
That's awesome.
Now let's take some time to talk about our friends at Science Division, who, interestingly enough, are the people that we're talking to in this episode.
How ironic.
Yeah, how ironic. They've made the world's first interactive Tribble that you can control with your smartphone.
So as you have heard so far on this episode, Jay and Kalia are both collectors, and you're hearing some of the stuff that they collect and what they look for in the stuff that they want. And so you're guaranteed that they've put that effort into the product that they're making, the time and attention to detail that you would want for the things that you're searching for. That's what they're putting into their product, right down to the fur on the Tribble.
You know, but what makes this product so interesting and so different from any other Tribble product is really that app that can be downloaded to your phone or your iPad or whatever device you have. That K7 app, when you download that app, you can do many things with your Tribble. You can give it a name. You can assign it to a ship. You can even put it in different modes, such as at ease, on duty, or even watchdog. So if you have that pesky co-host or network guy that's trying to get some of your collectibles, you can push that button and put it in watchdog mode. But really, we know in the end,
Tribbles are not dangerous.
So as an exclusive for our listeners, you can receive $5 off your very own Tribble when you use the code Cyrano at checkout. That is Cyrano, Cyrano, like Cyrano Jones, to receive $5 off a Tribble to bring into your home.
Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun. And we want to thank our friends at Science Division for being a part of this episode, where we learn about their collection, and for sponsoring this week's show.
So is there anything specific that you've really focused on when it comes to your collecting of Star Trek things?
See, this is a hard one because we have so many Star Trek things, but I don't know that there's like a thing that I'm like, I collect all of these of the thing. I kind of just tend to be like, that's a cool Star Trek thing. I'm going to get that. And so I have a huge collection of Star Trek, but it's not a huge collection of.
You're not a completist of like a category or something.
No, I have a good number of autographs, but I'm not ever collecting for the autograph. I'm collecting for the experience of having had like a meaningful exchange with the person who's doing the signing. So I'm never going to give money for like just an autograph, something or other, but I have a significant number of autographs from people that, or even just experiences with people that it's part of the like collecting the experience of being able to say like, you're a theater artist, I'm a theater artist. We can talk about things both Trek and outside of Trek that we, share in terms of interests and that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of what I would say I collect.
Is the experience.
Yeah.
So, Kalia, so have you had any great experiences with any of like an autograph that you went to get? What's some of your best experiences that you've ever had?
I think I have two favorites. The first is Renee. So when we were both still in theater school and the convention in Boston was literally down the street.
It was a block and a half from
our theater. And so I had never been to a convention before. I had no idea what cosplay was. I like grabbed a sweater and like printed out a vinyl comm badge and put on like boots and some sweatpants. And I was like, I kind of look like I'm in Star Trek, right? Because I felt so underprepared. And Jay had to explain to me that that's what cosplay is. It's dressing up as stuff, so it was total newbie. And so it didn't even occur to me that like you could get autographs. And so when I found out that, Odo was there, I was like, I got to go talk to him because we had just seen a panel where Renee talked about his background in theater and how much theater meant to him in storytelling and how important Deep Space Nine was in terms of storytelling. And that really spoke to me because he was also one of my favorite characters. And so when one of your favorite characters is performed by somebody who you also, share interests with, that's just really cool. So we ran all the way back to the theater to get an empty paint can from the paint shop that I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to take, but I grabbed it anyway. And so I could go get Odo to sign my bucket. And I was like, it's the closest thing to a bucket I could find. We went to the hardware store first. There wasn't anything. And so that's when we went, let's go to the paint shop. So we grabbed this little empty paint can and it had been washed. It was clean and everything. But we got up to Renee's table and he just looked at it and he goes, it's a bucket. And then he spent like 5 minutes. He had this whole pile of Sharpies, all different colors, because he wanted to be prepared. So no matter what somebody brought him, he could pick the appropriate color to make sure that it would show up. So we had this like artistic design conversation about which Sharpie would show up best on the bucket so that my autograph would look good.
That sounds really like great. Renee. That sounds like Renee.
I want now, which was this was the Boston convention. How many years ago would you say? Probably.
I was working in a dance theater.
10 years ago, maybe.
Give or take.
It was probably, not quite 10.
Yeah, so that probably was the one where I met him too, because was he doing little drawings of his bucket? Was he giving those out to people too?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I got one of those little drawings, he'd made one of those drawings for my son. So, but yeah, no, he was great. He was great to talk to then as well. I think I met him and Nana in the same convention there.
Yeah. And then my other favorite signature is that at Star Trek Las Vegas, when we had our prototype tribbles, I took one to show to Nichelle because Nichelle was always one of my childhood heroes. Like as a little girl growing up, I didn't realize at the time how important it was to see a woman on the bridge. But because like my dad was so girls can do anything, like we didn't even realize that we should be thinking that there might be barriers for us because that just wasn't the house we grew up in. But now like, looking back, I really appreciate how important it was that she was there and in the position that she was in. And I have always loved tribbles, and Nichelle, Ahura was the first one to like get the little pet tribble. So she actually signed one of our 3 original prototype tribbles, the electronics box on the inside. And she loved it so much. And we couldn't give it to her at the time because we only had the 3. But then when we got the tribbles made, we actually were able to send one to Nichelle, and she sent us like a video thank you talking about how much she loves her tribble and was like, you can share this with people, it's fine. And that was awesome to give like one of the icons of Star Trek a replica prop that you have created from the show.
I hope that you have saved that video for yourselves and you have it like on all kinds of different media so that
in multiple places.
yeah, so that you can't lose it. On our last episode, we were talking with Jim Morehouse from the Trek Ranks podcast. And in the early 2000s, Jim had bid on the opportunity to be in a walk-on role on Enterprise, and he won. And when we were talking to him, he said, he's like, I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I have to say that is my most sentimental collectible. I'm like, Jim, that's not cheating. I said, that's perfect, because not only is that something that you lived and experienced, but it's also tangible too, because you can go on Netflix and you can see it. You can buy a DVD and you can watch it. People around the world can see it. So, I mean, yeah, that's totally tangible. So, yeah, a video like that, I mean, that's a prized possession.
Yeah. Well, and she actually gave us permission to post it on the Tribble website too. So like when you go look at the Tribbles on our website, there's it's like a 30-second, maybe even short. It's very short, maybe 10 seconds of her saying how much she loves her Tribble. But it was really, that was amazing. Just to be like, this is my childhood hero. I made Tribbles because she liked Tribbles, and now I get to give her a Tribble and she loves it. And so that was like one of the coolest things that has ever happened to me.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Jay, what about you? Do you have any good stories? Any good Star Trek stories?
I
mean, you were part of both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was present at both of those experiences. Yeah, what was the original question? We got off track. Prize.
I think we were talking basically about things that you focus on in your collection, and then I kind of went off on a little tangent about about, because I'm a big autograph guy, as many people know. But I'm a completist though too. But
well, if I can, maybe this is cheating a little bit, but I mean, honestly,
cheating's allowed.
The most prized possession has been the memories since we started this. Going to Vegas is really the big start of it, but like being able to just interact with people. We went to the convention in Ticonderoga and just got to hang out with some really great people. The stars, whenever we've came into contact with them, they've been so wonderful and great. We've done 2 virtual conventions now. We were able to interview a whole bunch of people, and it's unreal. So like, yeah, it's a little bit cheating, but just some of the memories that we've been able to experience and be a part of in the past year since we really got this thing going.
We do have one thing that we are kind of completists about, but it's really silly.
It's okay.
I don't even know why. I think it was when the Star Trek game came out at Dave & Buster's.
Oh, yeah.
We were never big like Dave & Buster's people or whatever, but we're like, let's go check this thing out. And we ended up, I think we were visiting a friend in New York at the time. And the Dave & Buster's in New York like doesn't close. It's open forever. And we ended up spending hours there because we had to get all of the cards once. And we finished the set that night at the little like coin machine because we were just having a good time. And then like started like every summer they released a new set. And so pre-COVID, we would have like one day a year. We would decide once we knew the new set was out, we'd go and like win the entire set And we've saved the points. So there are like tens of thousands of ticket points on this card that we have. And someday we're going to get you like an Xbox or something with it. But we just go for the fun of playing the game. We hang out with each other and we just like collect all the cards.
So that's the one where it's like where you're in the ship. It's the Kelvin timeline one, right? Where you're in the ship and you do different.
It's one of
this is even worse.
It's one of the coin pusher ones. So you put in like the coin in a minute, or you shoot the coin and then you have to like get them to fall
It's
down.
horrible. It's really embarrassing.
It's a gotcha game, but
we have a good
it's a lot of fun.
That's
and you're
great.
actually really good at it. Jay's the one, like, he can see a card and he's like, that's the one I'm going to get. And like 5 minutes later, he's got it. So I don't know. You've just got a special.
Well, I've got to say that probably, well, the first thing I wanted to say is it sounds to me like the thing that the two of you seem to focus on for collecting is you're really collecting stories of your experiences.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
But then this story that you're telling about the Dave and Buster's cards, I think that gets into the question Jamie was going to ask about, what have you had an experience where you're, with Jamie and me, like if we're buying stuff on eBay, sometimes you'll run into a situation where I want this one thing, but the person is selling 5 things. So I have to buy all 5 to get the one that I want. I think that kind of falls into what you're doing at Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be 100% cheaper to just go on eBay and buy the set. They're not that expensive.
Yeah, but where's the fun in that? Come on.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
It's like an event. It's
an
basically
event.
a date night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
we go and we're like, here's our budget for the night. We know we're basically throwing it away, but it's not that different from like going out and doing
To a
something
casino,
else,
yeah. Yep.
So, and someday we'll turn in those tens of thousands of tickets and get
we turn in
something.
all the
for
duplicate
it.
cards.
But, yeah.
We turn in. And,
We actually rack up quite a few by the end of the night. By the time you've gotten all of the cards,
because
you have a lot of extras to turn in.
Well, they have the normal ones and then they have the shiny foil ones.
And you
So
have to get a
have
set of each.
a set of both, right?
See, you're a completist at heart. Don't fool yourself.
Yeah, no, I think it's just that I haven't let myself yet. I know the danger if I get onto I'm collecting all of these paths, it will be really bad.
There's a reason you don't go on eBay and type in Star Trek.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
I do have now, at this point now, I have quite a few fan sets pins. I am collecting all of the Women of Trek that are getting released one by
Mhm.
one at this point. So every time there's
too.
a new Women of Trek fan sets pin, I gotta head to the site, and then it's like, well, I should just get a bunch while I'm here. So there's a periodic fan sets shipment coming to my house. And it's because of that kind of thing that I try not to get onto any kind of particular
Mhm.
something, because I will be devoted to completing it.
There was a point where I was getting fan sets delivered to the house every 2 weeks, and it would coincide with when all the new stuff would come out. So, and you guys are
It's hard
speaking
not
Jamie.
to.
Yeah, it's true. You guys are speaking Jamie's language though when it comes to the completist stuff. He could tell you some stories.
That's bad. I'd rather not. I'd rather not tell any stories because it's bad. But I know you guys kind of talked about the whole Nichelle Nichols thing, and that is such a great story. I mean, are there any other? Obviously, to Mike's point, when you're trying to buy something, you got to go get 5. Or, I mean, I've developed so many great relationships over the years with different people because of collecting. I mean, you guys have an officially licensed product that you're selling to people. I mean, what other good relationships other than the one with Nichelle have you guys developed over the years, just through collecting or through selling your product or anything?
Probably our conventions, the last
Yeah.
2 that are virtual conventions that you planned.
Yeah, the 2 it's 2 interviews that I think I'm really proud. And there are moments in this process. I mean, the whole process is how did we get here? We're just 2, Trek
Mhm.
fans, and how are we even here at this point? But 2 really big moments, when we were doing Connected Con. So it was just a little virtual convention that we put together when the physical conventions went away. We wanted to host something to kind of give the community a chance to get together and chat with each other. And Alexander Siddig found out about it because we were going to his Sid City meetings. And I happened to be on, he gives you can sign up to talk and you get, 15 minutes with Alexander Siddig to just chat with him about whatever. And he does these meetings twice a week. And so we had gone, and I happened to mention that we were putting together a virtual convention and it was free. And he was like, "You're doing a convention for free?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I hate that people charge Star Trek fans for access to Star Trek. Can I'll come if you want, as long as it's free." And so all of a sudden I was getting emails from Mel, who runs the Sid City Social Club, saying, "No, he was serious. He will come and do an interview with you if you want." And so all of a sudden our little convention was featuring an interview with Alexander Siddig, and we're sitting there like chatting about his tomatoes and home garden and stuff on the internet. And it was kind of like, how did this happen? And then for virtual TrekCon, I had spoken to Armin Shimmerman a couple of times, or we had spoken to Armin Shimmerman and Kitty Swink at a Gaze in Space virtual event, because our table had been next to Gaze in Space at Star Trek Las Vegas. So we'd kind of gotten to know those guys. And so they invited us to come to one of their virtual events. And we ended up talking to Armin and his wife, Kitty, about theater, because they are both avid theater makers. And so when we did our Vendors Hall convention just in this past November, we reached out to their agent to say, "Hey, would Armin and Kitty be interested in chatting with us about making theater during COVID times and what it has meant for the industry and what they're doing?" And they said yes. And we had this amazing conversation with them where we literally just sat down and chatted for an hour about, first of all, Armin loves Star Trek. So we, of course, touched on, Star Trek and why it's so great, and how Star Trek and theater are kind of related. But then also we just had this amazing conversation with the two of them. We'd been friends forever, just talking about other passions outside of Trek. And it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really special.
That's really cool. I remember the Alexander Siddig one, and I so wanted to get on for the vendors room one, and I just could not make it that month. But man, now I'm really kicking myself when I'll have to.
Videos are still streamable, and I totally recommend checking them out. So there were some really, really great conversations that some of the fan panelists hosted too. Stevie did a presentation about information literacy and libraries and why they're still important and how they are important in COVID. And there was conversation about representation in Star Trek that the Sci-Fi Sisters led. So we were actually really proud of some of the panels that we were able to kind of get.
Yeah, they're all on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch them.
I've met the Sci-Fi Sisters before. They go to the conventions in Maryland that I like to go to. So
it's a great group.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I love my favorite part about this podcast is the stories. I will say, like, when people, because my big mantra with this thing is connecting through collecting, and it's just, you guys able to hold that connected con. I mean, I actually was able to go. I mean, obviously I spent most of my time in Mike's panel and the fan sets one, but I mean, it's just the relationships you get to build with people. And then some of the things that I'm learning about you guys that I never knew, some of your interest, or the Godzilla thing, like that's, it's great. And it's stuff that's really enjoyable. I got to keep bringing that Godzilla thing back. I mean,
I like
awesome.
Godzilla a lot.
Well, that makes the link to the Gorn even more interesting,
Yeah,
So
it's like animals and monsters, right? So it's tribbles, Godzillas, Gorns, tigers.
All right. So we're happy to tell you that you have succeeded in becoming members of the Divine Treasury. So
Excellent.
Welcome. So award time. So we do awards here to kind of define parts of your collection for you. So the Kivas Fajo Award obviously deals with the collector who was missing only data for his collection. So what is the top collectible that eludes your collection at this time?
This is going to sound really obvious, but I would love to have one of the original Tribbles. And I have never actively like pursued it because I know I'm sure I don't have the budget to, and I wouldn't necessarily know how to authenticate it or anything anyways, but that's been a thing that I feel like at this point we've collected so many Tribble prototypes and this one and that one that we've made. And I have my one that I made when I was 6 years old, which actually is sitting right here because she lives on my desk. So this is
Sweet.
Snowball. Yeah. It would just be really, really neat to have an actual. You've held one, right? Somebody had it at Trek Ponderoga.
At Trek Ponderoga, someone had one of the original ones in their bag, and they're like, "Have you ever held a real Tribble before?" And it's like, "No, I haven't."
So there's a photo, and I couldn't go, so Jay's texting me a photo of one of our Tribbles sitting next to a real Tribble, and I was like, so close.
The only thing that you have to be worried about, though, if you had the real Tribble from the original, I mean,
yeah,
the breeding would be out of control, right? I mean,
well, we'd have to get McCoy to give it the serum that he developed in.
We have a stock of his
more
serum,
Tribbles. Yeah,
so it's fine.
Yeah,
we can inoculate our own Tribbles.
Yeah, that's right.
Or just make sure you get a Glommer, and you're okay.
No.
Yeah.
That's the science division worst nightmare. Right?
Yeah.
Glommer gets into storage would be bad.
So how did you like the Trouble with Edward short? Did you like that? The Discovery Trek short?
I did, and I didn't. I feel like I love that Tribbles are continuing to show up. I love that Star Trek is continuing to go for humor. It wasn't necessarily my brand of humor, so like I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I have a hard time turning off my like, how does that fit into everything brain? And I work really hard at it, so I can enjoy stuff even when that's actually a skill I had to acquire, was like stop evaluating everything against everything else. And I have gotten much better at it in my adult life than I was younger.
Star Trek is tricky with canon.
Yeah.
If you really want to like be full on, like this is what canon is and this counts and this doesn't, there's some things that are hard to fit into that unless you really work hard to make them work.
My biggest issue with it, I think, actually, is the attitude of the captain. And I was like, a captain would never treat her crew that way, you know, because I like strong captains. You know, for me to like a Star Trek show, I have to get behind the captain. I had a hard time getting into Discovery at first because I was like, he's horrible. And then as soon as I went, oh, you're following Michael. I like Michael. I can get behind Michael. So then Michael became my like captain who was Lives of the Federation. And so for me, the captain kind of defines for me, or the lead character kind of defines for me, whether or not this is like Starfleet. But I love that the Trouble with Edward makes Tribbles fun. You know, Tribbles are supposed to be fun, and it got that exactly right. So from that point of view, I love that the Trouble with Edward happened and that Tribbles are fun, and we have all kinds of great things to refer to and new content. You know, people will comment about the Tribbles being like scallops and stuff like that when we run Facebook ads. It's so fun.
I can totally understand what you're saying there, because the first time I watched it, I enjoyed it, but I was having the hard time connecting the dots. And so when I just sat back and said, that's not what this is intended for, I enjoyed it more the second time I watched it and subsequent times, because you go into it knowing this is just here for the laughs. It's just silly. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction to it. You know, I initially thought it was funnier than you did. But it was still like, okay, this is, you know, kind of fun. But then I had to watch it like 5 times over because we did a trivia night for Tribbles.
Yeah.
So I went back and I watched every episode that had a Tribble in it over and over to like get trivia questions. I have a new appreciation for it. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to watch it again. It's actually really funny.
I can't necessarily say why or pin it exactly, but like I enjoy it more now that I've like gone back and really lived with it a little bit. And there's some moments that I just really love in it. I love the vacuuming up the tribbles.
Oh, the vacuum is hilarious.
I think that's just and the song that's playing at that time is just crazy.
Well, I like the vacuum because I love Ghostbusters. That's another thing I have a lot of is just random Ghostbusters stuff. And it reminds me a little bit, it's not anywhere close to it, but like the Ghostbusters proton packs look like those big vacuum backpack things. And so when somebody's walking around vacuuming up tribbles, it's like just close enough to similar that I get a hearty chuckle out of it.
That's awesome. All right. So our next award is the Grand Nagus Award. So what is the most valuable item in your collection?
I was thinking about this because we don't tend to get super expensive stuff. I mean, I've tried really hard not to get invested in like looking for really expensive stuff. Me too. We can't afford it. But I do now have a collection. I have finished out my favorite members of the TOS Bridge Crew. Their paintings by Kavita of Retrospect Studios. She is a painter in Canada who does amazing portraits. And so she actually was on the other side of us at Star Trek Las Vegas. So we spent a bunch of time with Kavita and her husband over that weekend and got really close. And I got a Spock painting from her. And that was going to be it, but then she came out with all of these others and they were amazing. And she happened to have this really great sale as part of our vendors hall convention. And I couldn't help myself. And now, she did a Nichelle Nichols painting, and we were originally going to be part of the Nichelle Nichols convention, which has not yet happened, but we did end up getting one of the paintings as participants in all of that. So I had Spock and I had Nichelle, and it would be so cool if I could just like finish out.
Collect them all.
Yeah. And it was like, never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But she had a sale and Jay was just like, just call it Christmas. We'll figure it out. People can like contribute to it or whatever. So now I will have Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, and Nichelle.
And Sulu.
So
basically you're completing it, right? Like a completist would?
See, this is why I told you I can't get started down the path because like the one paint, that was like my, my intro painting. And I knew that it was going to lead some more, but I tried to tell myself that it wouldn't. And it did.
I mean, to be fair, at the time, she didn't have nearly as many paintings. She's done a lot since we were in Vegas last.
It's Kavita's fault because she kept tempting me by coming out with more paintings.
Really big paintings. How dare she?
And she's also awesome, so it's great to support a small business, another small business licensee. And we are artists, and so I have a real soft spot for good art that I find. Mm-hmm. Our house is full of things that I shouldn't have bought, but I did because they were pretty. So.
Oh, I love it. All right, so last award. So the Resican Flute Award. So what is the collectible that you have? We'll just say collectible. Take that how you will. That has the most sentimental value to you.
We've probably gone over at least some of the
we've
already
covered the autographs and stuff.
The Nichelle autograph tribble is really cool.
That really is.
But I have a lot of things that Jay and my dad have made for me that are Star Trek things that are very near and dear to my heart. So Jay made me a Klingon bat'leth scaled to a Klingon of my short height. He literally drafted it out. He took the Sword of Kahless and scaled it down to if Kahless were as short as I am, and then made it for me. And it has there's an accompanying pair of mek'leths as well.
Nice.
And so my dad has made a bunch of stuff for me. And then my dad actually for one Christmas bought us a set of the Dickles whiskey bottles that they originally used to make the Saurian brandy bottles. And he was like, here are all of the instructions. You do theater, you make props and stuff. Like turn this into Saurian brandy. So Jay and I, we're sitting here looking at this set. So there's a large, medium, and a teeny tiny little one. And the bottles in and of themselves are,
Antique, massive.
beautiful. Yes. And we're like, we're supposed to peel the labels off of these and try to paint the leather.
I'm supposed to take a razor blade and get the labels off and then
and
treat the leather, and
we were terrified. And we didn't do it for like a year and a half. We were terrified we were going to mess it up. And we finally just went, Dad kept asking, like, have you made the bottles? Have you made the bottles? And we finally went, you know what? He bought them for us to do this. We're just going to give it a go. And actually, James Cawley at the Star Trek tour, when we went, told us which color they use of spray paint to do it. But the spray paint is it's an automotive high heat kind of paint. And we were worried about it on the really old leather. So we bought leather paint in like 12 different colors and custom mixed the leather dye paint to match. We bought the spray paint for the car, sprayed it onto a new piece of leather, mixed the leather paint to match the spray paint color, and then used that to repaint the bottle. But it was so nerve-wracking.
That's an awesome story. Now, when you said stuff that Jay and your dad had made, I was thinking back to the picture that's on your website of, I think it's you and your sister. And I was thinking that maybe you were going to tell us about the helm that your dad made for you.
We don't have it anymore, those are the only photos we have. And that photo doesn't even give you the full effect, because he had built the model of the bridge and it had all the buttons and bobs and all of that stuff. And so my sister and I would dress up in, red turtlenecks, because we had red turtlenecks for school uniforms. I don't know. They were like around. It was the only color shirt we had that was a Star Trek color. So we were red shirts. But there was it wasn't originally a playhouse. It was the area under the slide in the playground. And he built it into a house, installed a trap door in the top, and moved the bridge set inside of there, so that my sister and I could be piloting the Enterprise, and aliens could beam onto the bridge through the trap door. So we would go out and get chased by aliens for hours in the backyard.
So awesome.
Well, I will say thank you guys so much for taking the time to be with us. I mean, this was great. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got a chance to really, talk to you guys. I mean, I know I talked to you in Vegas, but this was a great experience. And where can people find you online if they're looking to talk to you?
Yeah, our website is Science Div, short for Science Division. So it's sciencediv.com. And if you check out, there's a link to the blog at the bottom in the footer of the page, and there's the very first blog post actually talks about growing up in Star Trek with my dad, and it has all the photos of that bridge setup that we had. And then we're also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Also, I think Twitter and Facebook, it's at Science Div, D-I-V, and it's Science_Division.
Well, very good. We do appreciate you taking some time tonight to chat with us about your collection. And we're looking for other collectors who would like to be featured on the Divine Treasury. So, Jamie, where can they find us in order to reach out?
You can find us on Twitter at divine_treasury and on Instagram with the same handle. We're both on Facebook, and we can be found popping in and out of Camp Kittimer from time to time. So if you'd like to be on the show, direct message us on those platforms, and please send us your pictures and videos.
You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll find the video or pictures put into video form of collections of ours, of our guests. And then from time to time, maybe you'll see some unboxing of new things from our collection. And who knows what else you might see. So if you enjoyed this episode and other episodes of the Divine Treasury, you can subscribe to the podcast by searching for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere where you find podcasts.
You can also support the Divine Treasury and the entire Trek Geeks podcast network by supporting us on Patreon. Get access to unedited recordings of every episode on the network, as well as other exclusive content and so many other awesome perks.
Now, if you'd like to become a producer on the network or get access to the raw audio for the Divine Treasury, head on over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks now to get your own slice of the Divine Treasury pie.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do. And we'd also like to thank 5 Year Mission for allowing us to use their awesome music on this show. Collectors, listen up. They are writing a song for every episode of the original series, and this is not parody music. This is music based on the show itself. So please go down to 5yearmission.net, put some CDs in your cart, because we know in collecting, it's not about the downloadable content. It's about having the physical media. So pick up year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4, as well as The Trouble with Tribbles and Spock's Brain. Make 5 Year Mission a part of your collection today.
And on our next episode, we look forward to talking to Alex Perry about his collection. I guarantee you are going to enjoy that episode. Some of the cool things that he's got in his collection, you're going to love to hear the stories about. But until then, this has been episode 6 of The Divine Treasury. The Divine Treasury, connecting through collecting.
Music for the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut.